Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The main character, after dying in his previous life, wakes up inside of One Piece as Kaido's adopted son. He got adopted by Kaido because he awakens Conqueror's Haki at the start.
One Piece, Kaido's adopted son, starts with the Eight Gates formation. Chapter 1. Starting as an infant, Kaido is stunned by Conqueror's Haki. Wow. What was that sound? A baby crying. No, that sound. Was it me? Lin tried to open his eyes, but found his eyelids too heavy to lift. My body felt limp and my limbs were completely unresponsive. He tried several times before he could barely manage to open a small gap. In the blurry vision, there was a completely unfamiliar environment. Where did this come from? Is it still in China? Lin was dumbfounded. Shouldn't he be staying up all night playing video games in his rented apartment? How did I end up in this desolate wilderness after waking up? And the sensations in my body are so strange. He lowered his head and laboriously raised his hand. A chubby, pink little arm came into view. Short and weak. This is a baby's hand. What the hell? Lin's mind went blank. Did I turn into a baby? I've time traveled. Reborn. What on earth is going on? Ding. Host soul has been detected to be stable. The multiverse growth system is activating. Activation successful. New player gift pack being distributed. A clear mechanical voice suddenly echoed in my mind. System. Lin was stunned. Is this the standard perk for time travelers that has arrived? But what can a baby do with a system? Before he could think it through, an indescribable, excruciating pain suddenly surged from the depths of his soul. It felt like someone was holding a red-hot branding iron and burning it hard into his consciousness. Wire. Lin couldn't help but burst into tears, her face covered in tears and snot. The pain comes quickly and goes quickly. A few seconds later, the pain disappeared, replaced by a wonderful sensation. It seems like something has entered my body. A kind of indescribable momentum. Ding. New player gift pack distributed. Top-tier Conqueror's Haki. Conqueror's Haki. Or is it top-tier? Lin's sobs faltered. He knows this stuff very well. The setting from One Piece. 1 in a million possesses the qualities of a king. And he is even more so. 1 in hundreds of millions possesses the ultimate Conqueror's Haki. So, I've been transporting to the world of One Piece. And it turned out to be a newborn baby. Just as Lin's mind was wandering. Ramble. The earth trembled violently. It felt like a magnitude 10 earthquake. Pebbles flew everywhere, and dust filled the air. Lin felt like a ball, jolted so hard he rolled a long way on the ground. Take a closer look. A shadow so huge it was unimaginable had blocked out the sky. A terrifying sense of oppression descended from the sky, almost suffocating Lin. He looked up with difficulty. A colossal figure stood not far ahead. His muscles were bulging. He had 2 horns on his head, a Shamnawa rope wrapped around his waist, and he carried a huge spiked club in his hand. That face was ferocious, malevolent, and filled with undisguised displeasure and tyranny. Hiccup. This is incredibly boring. A voice as loud as muffled thunder rang out, making Lin's head tremble. Kaido. Kaido of the beasts. The world's strongest creature. Lin's pupils contracted sharply, filled with terror. Encountering one of the 4 emperors right at the start. Or is it Kaido, a madman who enjoys suicide? System, you sent me here. Aren't you just trying to kill me? Kaido appears to have just attempted suicide by jumping from a height of 10,000 meters and is in an extremely bad mood. He looked around, his gaze sweeping over Lin, who was lying on the ground like a small worm. HMPH, an abandoned baby. Kaido's eyes flickered slightly before quickly returning to calm. This kind of thing is all too common in the world of One Piece. Immediately, he let out a burp, shouldered his spiked club, and turned to leave. From beginning to end, he didn't take the weak baby seriously at all. What does his life or death have to do with him? As Lin watched Kaido's towering figure, he felt a sense of relief mixed with immense anxiety. He's just a newborn baby with short arms and legs, unable to even crawl. So what if he has the most powerful Conqueror's Haki? Can I feed him with Tyrannosaurus Rex? Can I dress him? Can you help him with his bodily functions? Isn't this just waiting to die? Ding! System task issued. Survival in dire straits. Mission objective. Survive in the current environment for 100 days. Task reward. 1 random reward from across the myriad realms. The system notification sounded again. 100 days. Given his current condition, it's questionable whether he can survive for more than 3 days. Thinking of this, Lin's gaze immediately fell on that huge figure. No. We absolutely cannot let Kaido leave. He is the only chance. But how can I get him to stay? What can a baby do? Cry. Do you think Kaido cares if you cry or not? Acting cute. Trying to act cute in front of Kaido. He's probably just asking for a quick death. And many more. Conqueror's Haki. The system gave me top-tier Conqueror's Haki. Although I don't know how to use it, this is my only trump card. Fight. Just then. Hiss. A brightly colored venomous snake emerged from some crack in the rocks. It raised its triangular head high, its scarlet tongue flicking in and out, its cold, vertical pupils locking onto Lin's back. This little thing looks so delicate and tender, it's perfect as a snack. The venomous snake suddenly sprang out, baring its fangs, and bit down on Lin's nape. Lin was completely unaware of this. At the critical moment, boom! A dark shadow flashed by. The venomous snake was smashed into a pulp, splattering all over the ground. Hearing the loud noise, Lin had no idea what was going on. He couldn't even turn over. But then he saw Kaido turn around. He reached out his hand. He flicked a small stone towards us with his finger. Annoying little bugs. Kaido muttered something impatiently and continued walking. Lin finally understood what had just happened. Kaido had saved him. That being the case, that favor must be repaid no matter what. He mustered his strength. His gaze became exceptionally sharp. Kaido, seemingly sensing something, stopped and turned around. Next second, an invisible wave of energy suddenly swept out from Lin's small body. This aura is not the simple intimidation of ordinary Conqueror's Haki. It is more refined, more pure, and carries a supreme and majestic majesty that originates from the very source of life. The air itself seemed to freeze under this overwhelming force. The surrounding pebbles and grass blades silently turned to dust. Even several large trees in the distance, which required several people to encircle, instantly developed countless cracks, as if they would collapse at any moment. Kaido had already turned around, and for the first time, an expression of disbelief appeared in his copper bell-like eyes. That domineering aura. So strong. It was stronger than any Conqueror's Haki he had ever seen. Even more. Amazing potential than he was back then. How is this possible? A newborn baby awakens Conqueror's Haki. And it's this kind of monstrous level Conqueror's Haki. Kaido has lived for so long. What storms hasn't he seen? But what he saw before him completely overturned his understanding. His own Conqueror's Haki is already top tier. But the potential that this baby was unleashing made him feel a chill run down his spine. Who is this kid? Kaido's expression changed. It's no longer the indifference of before. Instead, it was filled with deep surprise and scrutiny, and a hint of excitement that even he himself didn't realize. Interesting. So funny. Chapter 2 Beastmen. Greetings, young Master Lin. Kaido stared at the pink little ball of flesh on the ground, his surprise and doubt gradually replaced by a kind of fanatical excitement. Conqueror's Haki. So pure, so oppressive, is the color of a conqueror. It actually came from a newborn baby. This is even more outrageous than what I did back then. Hiccup, Kaido hiccuped again, but his eyes were unusually clear. He thought of his good-for-nothing daughter, Yamato. He keeps clamoring to be like Kazuki Oden. It's utterly shameful. It's ruined. Look at this little thing in front of you. He was born with such an amazing conqueror's haki. This is the successor Lao Tzu wanted. Kaido grinned, revealing a hideous smile. Kid, from today onwards, you're my son. He didn't give Lin a chance to react at all. His huge hand carefully reached out and gently lifted Lin's limp body. I'll call you Lin. Kaido casually decided on a name, his voice like a rumbling thunderclap. Lin. What the hell? Is it really Lin? Same name as me. What is this? Fate. But they survived. You made the right bet. Kaido, that madman, actually adopted me just because of my conqueror's haki. Lin was overjoyed. His survival instinct temporarily suppressed his worries about the future. He's just a baby now, only able to make meaningless babbling sounds. But in Kaido's eyes, the babbling sound, coupled with the tear stains on Lin's face, which were actually from pain, was a joyful response to his decision. Great. Interesting. Kaido was even more pleased, feeling that this kid was on his side. He carefully adjusted his position, placing Lin on his broad shoulders. Wrong. The shoulders are not stable. Kaido thought for a moment, and then simply placed Lin on his head. Yes, the dragon throne, that's more impressive. Lin was placed on Kaido's hard, horny scalp, feeling the vibrations and warmth coming from below, and he was completely stunned. This treatment. Isn't it a bit too much? Hold on tight, kid. Kaido roared. Boom. His massive body instantly transformed into a majestic azure dragon, soaring into the sky. The wind howled, easily tearing the clouds apart. Lin felt dizzy, and the wind was whistling in his ears. He was held in place on top of Kaido's dragon head by an invisible force, so he didn't have to worry about falling off. From a high altitude, the islands below appear to shrink rapidly. Kaido, in his dragon form, flew rapidly in one direction. Our destination, Wano Country, Onigashima Island. A Oni Island, inside the giant skull fortress. Banquet hall. The senior officers of the Beast's pirates are drinking and making a ruckus. Boss Jin, another drink, please. Lord Quinn, you've gained weight again. Stop talking nonsense. I'm just strong. The three calamities, Jaehin the blazing calamity, Quinn the plague calamity, and Jake the drought calamity, each occupy a territory. The Flying Six, Foz, Black Maria, Sasaki, Ulti, and Page 1, were also making a ruckus in their respective territories. The atmosphere was both lively and chaotic. Just then, boom! With a loud crash, a huge hole was smashed open in the ceiling of the hall. Gravel and wood chips fell with a clatter. A massive dragon had peered inside. It was Kaido, who had just returned. Boss Kaido. The governor is back. The noisy hall fell silent instantly, and everyone stood up, looking at Kaido with awe. Kaido transformed back into human form and landed with a thud, shaking the ground 3 times. In his hands, he was carefully cradling a baby. What is that? Baby. Jaehin, Queen, Jack, and the Flying Six were all stunned. Kaido went out and brought back a child. Where is it? Ha. You all better watch out. Kaido lifted Lin high, his rough laughter echoing through the hall. From this day forward, this brat is my son. I named him Lin. He will be the man who inherits the will of my beast's pirates. What? Son? The heir. All the carders were stunned and looked at each other blankly. Where is Miss Yamato? What's wrong with the governor now? Queen's fat face was filled with confusion, and he couldn't help but ask, Boss Kaido. What? What's going on? This little guy. Shut up, Queen, Kaido glared at him. This brat isn't an ordinary person. He looked at Lin in his arms, with a smug look in his eyes. Lin, let them see what you've got. Experience. What's there to see? Lin blinked. Oh, is it Conqueror's Haki? Fine. Although I'm still not quite sure how to control it, I should be able to release it without any problems. He focused his mind and tried once again to summon the power deep within his soul. An invisible pressure, even more concentrated and terrifying than what they had experienced on the deserted island, instantly enveloped the entire hall. The air is frozen. The wine glasses, tables, and chairs began to shake violently. Click, click. Some objects that are not sturdy enough developed cracks on their surface. Inside the hall, apart from Kaido and King, who could barely stand, everyone else, including Queen and Jack, felt a chill run down their spines. The 6 members of the Flying Six were even paler than before, and some of them couldn't help but feel their legs go weak and almost knelt down. This is... Quinn's eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and his fat jiggled wildly. Conqueror's Haki, Jack exclaimed in shock, his face filled with horror. Even on Jaehin's masked face, extreme shock was evident. That domineering aura. So strong. That's ridiculously strong. It seems even more oppressive than when Governor Kaido unleashes his full power. How is this possible? It's just a baby. A newborn baby's Conqueror's Haki was enough to shake these battle-hardened pirates. Monster. That's absolutely monstrous talent. Feeling this overwhelming aura, Kaido laughed heartily with satisfaction. Ha ha ha. Do you see that? This is Lin. A born king. The hall was completely silent. All eyes were fixed on the tiny baby, filled with awe and disbelief. After a brief silence, greetings, Master Lin. Young Master Lin. Led by the 3 disasters, all the carders, including the unruly Flying Six, knelt on one knee or bowed deeply to express their submission and respect. They had no doubt. An infant with such terrifying Conqueror's Haki will definitely become a super big shot who reigns over this sea, as long as he grows up smoothly. Even surpassing Governor Kaido. Lin looked at the group of fierce-looking pirates bowing to him, a baby, and felt a strange sensation in his heart. Is this The respect that comes with power. In the world of One Piece, strength truly reigns supreme. Ding! Host has begun to integrate into the environment. Mission Survival in Dire Straits, progress updated. 100 days. The system notification sounded at the appropriate time. 99 days left. Lin looked at Kaido, who was hugging him and laughing loudly, and then looked at the beast pirates officers kneeling below. The start was dangerous, but it seems not bad. At least we're safe for now. Chapter 3. How can someone fly without eating a devil fruit? Time flies, and 3 months have passed in the blink of an eye. Oni Island, inside Kaido's private palace, in a room that has been transformed into a children's playground. A baby with exquisite features was lying on the ground, kicking its short legs very fast, almost as fast as an adult jogging. He was Lin. In just 3 months, Lin's body grew at an incredible speed. He can already run and jump, and can even write some simple words on a wooden board with a charcoal pencil, albeit in a crooked manner. The only problem is that the vocal cords are not fully developed yet, so they can only make ear sounds and cannot speak normally. Even so, the members of the Beast's pirates were already astonished by the speed at which this young Master Lin had grown. Can someone run and write in just 3 months? Is this a human baby? It's clearly a monster cub. Maria Black, who was in charge of taking care of Lin's daily life, rubbed her temples with a headache as she looked at Lin crawling all over the floor with boundless energy. This little rascal is such a handful. Just then, ding! Mission Survival in Desperate Circumstances has been completed. Mission Evaluation. Perfect. Survived 100 days under Kaido's protection. Mission Reward. Dragon Ball World Flying Technique. The system's voice sounded in my mind. A mysterious method of circulating Kai and body control techniques instantly flooded into Lin's consciousness. A flying technique. Lin's eyes widened suddenly. I rely on. That's an amazing skill. It can fly freely in the sky. Don't be too cool. Lin was overjoyed. With this, you can run away even if you can't win a fight, greatly improving your survivability. However, his joy was short-lived. Ding! New mission issued. Task 1. Grow strong and healthy. Objective. Survive to age 1. Mission 2. Make a name for yourself. Objective. Personally defeat 100 Marines. Rank not limited. Lin's smile froze instantly. Surviving to 1 year old. That's not bad. But personally defeat 100 Marines. System, are you kidding me? I'm only 3 months old. He's less than half a meter tall, weighing less than 10 pounds. You want me to take down 100 sailors? This isn't how you feed kills. Lin felt a sharp pain in his testicles. No, he didn't have that ability yet. It was pain all over his body. The difficulty and range of the tasks in this system are just too big. Never mind, let's try out the new flying technique first. With a thought, Lin tried to mobilize the Kai in his body, according to the method in his mind. Next second, call. His small body, swaying gently as if weightless, slowly floated up. 1/2 meter off the ground. 1 meter. 2 meters. Ear! Lin waved her little arms and legs excitedly. It worked. It really flew. The feeling of being free from the constraints of gravity is amazing. Ha! The Black Maria, who was dozing off nearby, suddenly opened her 6 eyes and stared in disbelief at Lin floating in midair. Lin, young Master Lin N. How did you fly? Black Maria was terrified and jumped to her feet. Her sharp scream instantly attracted the attention of others nearby. Whoosh whoosh. Several figures rushed in quickly. These are the other members of the Flying Six: Ulti, Pagevan, Sasaki, Foz, and others. Maria, what's wrong? Ulti asked in a flustered manner. Look. Young Master Lin. Black Maria pointed at Lin, who was floating in midair, her voice trembling. What? Flying, it's flying. Holy crap. What's going on? The 6 flying creatures all looked up, their eyes nearly popping out of their sockets as they stared at the tiny figure swaying in the air. Young Master Lin. Danger. Get down here quickly, Peggy Van shouted urgently. Iya. Lin not only ignored it, but found it even more interesting and controlled her body to fly quickly around the room. The speed is getting faster and faster. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Like a tiny ghost, it moved nimbly through the spacious room. Grab him, Fosfo's expression changed, and he made the first move, reaching out to grab Lin with his large hand. However, Lin swayed and easily dodged. Over here, Ulti also rushed over, but missed as well. Damn it. Too fast, Sasaki drew his sword, but dared not swing it and could only stare helplessly. Several Flying Six, who are considered strong even in the New World, were currently frantically surrounding a 3-month-old baby, but they couldn't even touch the hem of the baby's clothes. Lin was having a blast, performing all sorts of difficult maneuvers in the air to evade their capture. This aerial maneuver is simply an amazing skill for evading opponents. Get out of the way. A delicate shout rang out. Wearing a Hanya mask, Yamato, with his perfectly curvaceous figure, rushed in. She was taken aback when she saw Lin flying through the air, then exclaimed excitedly, "Oh, little brother can fly. Come on, let your big sister catch you." As he spoke, Yamato joined the arrest operation. But the result was still the same. Lin is too fast and too agile. Just as the scene was in complete chaos. Enough. What's all the noise about? A deep, authoritative voice rang out. Jaehin, Quinn, and Jack, the 3 calamities, walked in. Upon seeing the scene in the room, the 3 of them also had their pupils shrink. Young Master Lin, is he flying? Jack rubbed his eyes, wondering if he was seeing things. Quinn's fat body jiggled. Ha ha ha. Is this some kind of new ability? Jin frowned, and without saying a word, the black wings on his back flapped suddenly. Call. He appeared behind Lin in an instant, his large hand moving with lightning speed, accurately grabbing Lin by the back of his collar and pulling him down. Lin, suspended in midair, was frozen in place by the sudden force. Her little face puffed up, and she looked a little unhappy. We were having so much fun. Let go of my brother. Upon seeing this, Yamato immediately rushed towards Jin. Miss Yamato, please calm down. Jin stepped aside, his tone indifferent. Just then, ramble. A terrifying aura descended. Kaido's tall figure appeared at the doorway, his face terribly gloomy, his eyes sweeping fiercely across the entire area. Who gave Lin the devil fruit? The roar was like a thunderclap, making the entire room vibrate. The 6 flying creatures and Yamato were so frightened that they trembled all over and didn't dare to breathe. Kaido highly values Lin's potential, and has long ago given an order that Lin must not be given any devil fruit without his permission. He wanted to find the most suitable and powerful fruit for Lin. Seeing Lin fly, Kaido's first reaction was that someone had disobeyed his orders. It wasn't me. Quinn waved his hand hastily, sweat dripping down his fat face. Governor, we didn't, Jack quickly denied as well. Fei Liubao shook his head like a rattle drum. Black Maria hurriedly explained, Boss Kaido. We don't know what happened either. Young Master Lin suddenly took to the air. Kaido's gaze shifted to King. Jin shook his head slightly. When I arrived, he was already flying. Kaido frowned even more as he looked at Lin, who was being held by King and kicking his short legs in dissatisfaction. He softened his tone, trying to make himself seem less intimidating. Lin, tell me, did you eat some strange fruit? Lin blinked and understood what Kaido meant. He shook his little head vigorously. I didn't eat. Kaido was taken aback. You haven't eaten. He asked again, as if to confirm, you really didn't eat. Lin nodded firmly. This time, not only Kaido, but everyone present was stunned. Jaehin, Queen Jack, Yamato, Flying 6. Disbelief was written all over everyone's faces. He can fly without eating a devil fruit. What the hell is going on? Chapter 4, Navy Clashes with Beasts. Lin, a great opportunity to grind missions. The people on Onigashima were completely baffled as to why Lin could fly without eating a devil fruit. All sorts of outrageous speculations are flying around. Some say that young Master Lin is probably of some rare race, born with wings, but they are just invisible. Some say it's a talent, something you're born with, like Conqueror's Haki. It doesn't make sense. Queen, that fat guy, still harbored wicked intentions and secretly tried to obtain some of Lin's hair and blood for research. But he was caught red-handed by Kaido and almost had his leg crippled before he finally behaved himself. In the end, Kaido delivered the final blow. My son is that awesome. You disagree. Keep it to yourself. This arrogant attitude effectively stifled everyone's curiosity. Anyway, everyone already knows the truth. This young Master Lin is a complete monster from head to toe. Time just flows by like that. 1 year later. Oni Island, a huge open-air training ground. A tiny figure dressed in a miniature version of the Beast's pirate's uniform is steadily floating in midair. His rosy face was tense and serious, and he was muttering to himself. The breath needs to sink, and then go. Call out. The small figure instantly transformed into a blurry black line, violently tearing through the air and leaving a long afterimage in the sky above the training field. The speed is dazzling. This little one is Lin, who is 1 year and 3 months old. After more than a year of growth and hard work, plus completing the system's first 1-year survival mission, I received the reward of massive stamina limit. Therefore, he was extremely skilled at aerial maneuvers, able to go fast or stop whenever he wanted. Its body has grown quite a bit. Although it is still a tiny little thing compared to an adult, it runs, jumps, and rolls around as nimbly as a monkey. The only minor flaw is that he still speaks a little haltingly, and his tongue always seems to be unable to flow straight. Young Master Lin. Young Master Lin. Please fly slower. Below the training ground, several beast pirates' henchmen responsible for guarding him had their necks almost broken from looking up, their faces full of misery. This little tyrant can fly away and disappear without a trace. How are they, a group of ability users who run on the ground, supposed to keep up with him? Lin did a graceful somersault in the air, landed lightly, and had a little smug look on her face. Just then, tread. A series of hurried, distorted footsteps approached from afar. A messenger from the beast's pirates, his face contorted with barely concealed panic, scrambled toward King the Flame, who was resting with his eyes closed not far away. Jin. Boss Jin. Something terrible has happened. Jin slowly opened his eyes, his scarlet gaze sweeping over the messenger, the invisible pressure causing the messenger's voice to tremble. What's the panic? Jin's voice was deep and metallic. The messenger swallowed hard, almost shouting, We control island G58, and suddenly we're under attack by the main naval fleet. The team is led by 3 vice admirals from Marine headquarters, Ghost Spider, Doberman, and the Flying Squirrel. The brothers on the island are about to collapse. Lord Sasaki is also on the island. The situation is dire. Jaehin's face, hidden by the mask, revealed no expression, but his suddenly contracting pupils and the chilling, killing intent emanating from his body showed the turmoil within him. 3 lieutenant generals from headquarters. It must be because we seized a batch of naval transport ships last time, and they sent people to retaliate. Without the slightest hesitation, he immediately ordered, Pass the word. Gather manpower, prepare the largest warships. Set sail immediately to provide reinforcements. Yes, sir. The messenger accepted the order and ran off. But as Jin looked in the direction the messenger had disappeared, his expression turned serious. G58 Island is quite a distance from Oni Island. Even if he immediately gathers his men and sets off at full speed, it will still take a considerable amount of time to make a round trip. Sasaki. His strength is considered quite good among the Flying Six, but to simultaneously hold his own against 3 headquarters vice admirals. Jin knew in his heart that this was almost an impossible task. Hopefully, that guy can hold on a little longer until reinforcements arrive. Not far away, Lin, who had heard the entire conversation clearly, rolled his big, dark eyes around a few times. Navy. 3 lieutenant generals from headquarters. Sasaki, that cuckolded guy. No, I mean that unlucky fellow with the spiral blade, is there too. He subconsciously licked his lips, his mind racing with a flurry of calculations. System mission 2, making a name for yourself. Objective, personally defeat 100 Marines, rank not limited. This is like a pillow being delivered to someone who's already dozing off. With 3 vice admirals leading the team, how many naval scouts must there be? This is a monster hunting dungeon that was tailor-made for me. We absolutely have to go. If not now, when? While Jin and the other officers were busy deploying troops, and everyone's attention was drawn to the naval raid, they took advantage of the moment. Lin's small figure, like a nimble cat, quietly slipped to the edge of the training field. He looked around to make sure no one was paying attention to him. A thought crossed my mind. Call. The small body took off again, almost touching the ground without making a sound, like an inconspicuous shadow, and rushed towards the outer edge of the demon island. At the same time, G58 Island. The deafening roar of artillery fire almost tore the sky apart. Shouts of battle, screams of agony, and the clash of weapons were all mixed together. Dozens of enormous naval warships, like steel behemoths, surrounded the entire island. The dark muzzles of the cannons spewed out tongues of fire, and dense shells pounded on the island's defenses like hail, kicking up clouds of smoke and debris. Countless soldiers in white naval uniforms swarmed off the landing craft like ants, brandishing guns and swords, howling as they charged toward the beast's pirates' stronghold on the island. The beach was quickly stained dark red, broken weapons and mutilated limbs were everywhere, and the air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and blood. In the center of the island, in front of a fortress that has been bombarded and is on the verge of collapse. Damn it! Have these Navy guys taken the wrong drugs? They're like mad dogs. Sasaki brandished his uniquely shaped spiral-shaped longsword, Rasengan, the blade spinning with a sharp whooshing sound as he cleaved a naval officer who was attempting a sneak attack in 2, sword and all. He had several wounds on his body, his green kimono stained with blood, his chest heaving violently as he gasped for breath. Around him, Three figures with auras as heavy as mountains firmly surrounded him in the center. All three of them wore white justice cloaks, symbolizing their status as vice admirals in the Navy headquarters. They had cold eyes, ruthless actions, and worked in perfect harmony. It was none other than Vice Admiral Doberman of the Navy headquarters. Mole, flying squirrel, Oni spider, and fighting dog Doberman. Chapter 5: The Navy's Shock. Such strong conquerors Haki, released by a little kid. Sasaki of the Flying Six of the Beast's Pirates. The tall, thin Onagumo, with a mustache and always sporting a cigar, grinned cruelly, his 8 spider-like appendages twitching behind him. Your luck has run out. Enough with the nonsense. Sasaki spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes fierce. You 3 pieces of trash think you can keep me here? Dream on. He roared, gripped the spiral blade tightly with both hands, and charged towards Doberman, who was closest to him once again. Arrogant fool, Doberman's eyes flashed, and he drew his long sword from his waist, meeting the attack head-on without showing any weakness. Clang, 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 clang. A series of ear-piercing metallic clanging sounds rang out. Sparks flew everywhere. Sasaki fought 3 opponents alone, and the battle was extremely difficult. The flying squirrel's swordsmanship is exquisite and cunning. Onagumo's 8-sword style is unpredictable and difficult to defend against, and Doberman's slashes are powerful and heavy. The 3 well-coordinated lieutenant generals from headquarters put him under tremendous pressure. His armament Haki was rapidly depleting, and his movements inevitably began to slow down. Puff! Unable to dodge in time, his left shoulder was caught off guard by Doberman, who pierced it with a swift finger pistol. Blood gushed out instantly. Ugh! The intense pain caused Sasaki to groan, and he staggered uncontrollably, revealing an even larger opening. It's over. Seizing this fleeting opportunity, Onagumo stomped his foot and unleashed the shave technique from the 6 powers of the Navy. His figure blurred instantly, and he appeared to Sasaki's side. A powerful kick, imbued with armament Haki, was like a sharp blade, whistling through the air, aimed fiercely at Sasaki's unsuspecting neck. If that kick landed, Sasaki would be severely crippled even if he didn't die. Sasaki's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of pinpoints. He wanted to hide. He tried to stop him. However, due to the intense pain and excessive exertion of his domineering aura, his body simply couldn't keep up with his brain's reaction. Finished. At that critical moment, when life and death hung in the balance. An indescribable, terrifying, invisible pressure, like a flood bursting its banks or an erupting volcano, suddenly swept down from the sky. It instantly enveloped the entire G-58 island. The entire battlefield seemed to have been paused. The air froze. The sound of the wind has disappeared. The sounds of gunfire and battle cries abruptly ceased. Those weaker Marines and members of the Beast Pirates, faced with this overwhelming and domineering pressure, didn't even have time to scream. Like harvested wheat, they rolled their eyes back, foamed at the mouth, and collapsed to the ground, completely unconscious. Even the 3 vice admirals of the Navy headquarters, who were besieging Sasaki and about to deliver a fatal blow, suddenly froze. Onagumo's deadly Tempest kick was abruptly halted in midair. Their movements were halted for a fraction of a second under the impact of this domineering and arrogant aura. My mind went completely blank. Their thinking was shaken to an unprecedented degree. My soul is trembling. This is. Onagumo's sinister smile froze completely. He was oblivious to the cigar falling from his mouth to the ground, his eyes filled with boundless horror. Conqueror's Haki. Doberman gasped in shock, his hand gripping the knife, trembling uncontrollably. Wow! Such powerful Conqueror's Haki. This level. Could it be Kaido? The flying squirrel turned pale, and for the first time, a look of terror appeared on its face. It suddenly looked up at the sky. In their understanding, there are very few people in the entire New World who can unleash such terrifying, pure, and oppressive Conqueror's Haki. At this moment, who else but Kaido could be here to handle this kind of thing? Sasaki was completely stunned. Before the feeling of relief at surviving the ordeal could even well up in his heart, he was shocked by this familiar, yet overwhelmingly powerful and unfamiliar Conqueror's Haki. This isn't Kaido's Conqueror's Haki. This is. Sasaki seemed to realize something, and his expression changed drastically. He quickly looked up at the sky. As predicted, the majestic, terrifying, sky-covering azure dragon did not appear in the azure sky. There was only a tiny black dot, descending from the clouds at an extremely fast speed. Getting closer and closer. It's getting clearer and clearer. That was wearing an ill-fitting, miniature version of the Beast's pirate's uniform. Little brat. Look at that small frame. Look at that rosy cheeks. She can't be older than 2 years old. 3 vice admirals. All the naval officers and Beast Pirates executives who were still conscious on the battlefield were as if they had been petrified, their eyes wide open, their mouths agape, and their jaws almost dislocated and fell to the ground. Only one thought was echoing wildly in my mind. That terrifying Conqueror's Haki that had just struck them so hard it almost froze their souls and made it difficult for them to even move. Was it released by this brat who hasn't even been weaned yet? What kind of international joke is this? Is this the kind of domineering color a toddler, barely over a year old, can possibly have? Lin, young Master Lin N. After a brief moment of stunned disbelief, the severely injured Sasaki was the first to react, letting out a cry of alarm. Although he knew that this kid was exceptionally talented and had ridiculously strong Conqueror's Haki, experiencing it firsthand, especially being saved by this Haki at a life-or-death moment, was still too impactful. Young Master. Upon hearing Sasaki's address, the 3 vice admirals snapped back to reality as if struck by lightning. Ghost Spider, Doberman, and Flying Squirrel exchanged a glance, all seeing shock and horror in each other's eyes. Kaido's son. A monster with such terrifying Conqueror's Haki potential is actually Kaido's offspring. Chapter 6 Surprise. Obtain the 8 Gates Formation. The Navy has been keeping a close eye on Kaido. But I've never heard of Kaido having a son. What's going on? And also, besides possessing such an outrageous level of Conqueror's Haki, why can this kid fly? Could it be that Kaido has already fed him a devil fruit? But none of that matters right now. So strong at such a young age. If this kid really grows up, what will become of him? A second Kaido. Even surpass Kaido? Absolutely not. We must seize this opportunity, while he is still just a baby, and take him down in one fell swoop. So he's Kaido's bastard. Onagumo's eyes instantly turned incredibly fierce. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, only to have it fall right into my lap. Take him down. Without any further words, Doberman turned his blade and pointed it at Lin in midair. Everyone, listen up. The flying squirrel reacted swiftly, yelling at the still conscious naval officers around him, priority target. That brat in the sky. Who cares if he's a baby or not? Who cares if it's a monster or not? Anyone who is Kaido's man, anyone who poses a significant threat to the future, must be treated equally. Swish, swish, swish. The surviving naval officers, though still shaken by the terrifying Conqueror's Haki, knew that the Vice Admiral's orders were ironclad. They immediately raised their guns and swords, aiming them at the small figure. "Bastards! How dare you?" Sasaki's eyes were bloodshot as he dragged his badly injured body and tried to rush over to protect Lin. But as soon as he moved, Doberman's cold blade struck again, binding him tightly. "Your opponent is me," Doberman said coldly. "Young Master Lin." "Run," suppressed by Doberman. Sasaki could only shout anxiously at Lin, "Don't worry about me." "Run! Run!" Lin hovered in midair, her small brows furrowed. Just then, ding! Host detected using Conqueror's Haki, instantly defeating a large number of Marine soldiers. Mission Emerging Talent has been overfulfilled. Task Evaluation, amazing. Mission Reward, Naruto World 8 Gates Formation, optimized version with no side effects. Ding! New mission issued. Task 1, grow strong and healthy. Objective, survive to age 3. Mission 2, a challenge beyond one's level. Objective, before turning 3 years old, defeat a Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters or an officer of equivalent rank in a direct confrontation. Mission 3, limit break. Objective, activate and unleash the 8th gate of the 8 inner gates, the gate of death. System notifications kept ringing in my mind. A stream of information containing the secrets of human limits and explosive techniques flooded into Lin's consciousness. The 8 gates formation. Is it the version without side effects? Lin's eyes lit up instantly. What the hell? That's awesome. It's practically a cheat code, tailor-made for my small frame. But, seeing the new tasks that followed, Lin's face fell again. It's all right if they survive to 3 years old. Taking down a lieutenant general before the age of 3. Barely passable. But we still need to open the dead door. Even without the deadly side effects, it's still too much for his current small frame to handle. Despite the complaints, the current situation is far from optimistic. Whoosh, 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 bang, bang, bang. Below, countless bullets and small shells were raining down on him. The flying squirrel and the Oni spider were not idle either. Although they said they were prioritizing the target, they did not rush up immediately. Instead, they directed their subordinates to provide fire support while their figures swayed, seemingly looking for the best time to launch a surprise attack. "Kid, we don't know what kind of monster you are, but attacking a child is not our intention." Onigumo spoke coldly, a cigar he'd seemingly produced from nowhere. "Too bad, you're Kaido's son." "I advise you to surrender," the flying squirrel chimed in, its eyes sharp as an eagle's. "Iya, enough with the nonsense," Lin replied in a childish voice, her small body nimbly weaving through the hail of bullets. He mastered the art of flying. Like ghosts, they left trails of afterimages in the air. Bullets and shells couldn't even touch the hem of his clothes. "He's too fast. And too small. Damn it. How can this kid be so slippery?" A naval rear admiral roared in exasperation, his gun almost smoking. "Don't panic. He's just dodging. He's so young, he can't possibly use Conqueror's Haki continuously." Onigumo's eyes were sharp. He saw through Lin's predicament. "Keep attacking. Wear him down." Just as Onigumo said. Lin realized that the burst of Conqueror's Haki he had just unleashed had almost completely drained the pitiful amount of Kai, or mental energy, from his small body. In a short time, let alone releasing Conqueror's Haki to clear the field again, even maintaining the high-intensity flying technique began to feel strenuous. This can't go on. If you only rely on dodging, you'll eventually be worn down and killed. Moreover, those two lieutenant generals clearly hadn't actually made a move yet. They were just watching from the sidelines, looking for an opportunity to strike a fatal blow. We must fight back. But how do I fight back? Fighting hand to hand, with those skinny arms and legs. You'd be better off getting a gua sha treatment. I can't use Conqueror's Haki. And many more. 8 gates formation. The 8 gates formation, with no side effects. A resolute glint flashed in Lin's dark eyes. Fight. Instead of dodging, he suddenly rose higher, hovering above the ground, thus escaping the range of most firearms. He closed his eyes, concentrated his mind, and began to mobilize the faint but real energy within his body according to the profound method in his mind. It's not about being domineering. It's not just about physical strength. Rather, it is a more fundamental force, belonging to life itself. What is he doing? The flying squirrel frowned, feeling a sense of unease. No matter what tricks he's up to. Get ready. Oniguma also sensed something was wrong, and his 8 spider-like blade arms slowly rose. Just then, Lin suddenly opened her eyes. His once clear, baby-like eyes now glowed with a faint, burning green light. A violent and fiery aura, completely different from Conqueror's Haki, began to emanate from his small body. First door. Open. Open. Chapter 7 opens 7 doors in a row, stunning everyone. First door. Open. Open. Lin's childish voice sounded particularly jarring in the deathly silence of the battlefield. However, as soon as he finished speaking, boom! An indescribable, immense power, like a sleeping dragon awakening, suddenly erupted from his small body. His once jet-black, bright baby eyes now shone with an eerie green light. On the surface of his skin, the veins bulged slightly like small snakes, and a sense of power far beyond what one should have at his age began to surge wildly. The spider demon and the flying squirrel, who had been closely watching Lin, suddenly narrowed their eyes. What is this? The flying squirrel exclaimed in a low voice, a crack appearing on its composed face for the first time. He could clearly feel that the energy fluctuations within the baby's body were surging wildly in an illogical way. This isn't domineering. It's not a devil fruit ability. This was a kind of pure, primal, explosive power they had never seen before. Playing tricks, Oni Spider's eyes flashed, and his 8 spider-like, blade-like arms swung violently. Don't be fooled. Attack. Capture him alive. He hadn't finished speaking. Lin, suspended in midair, her little face tense, let out another soft, childish shout. Second gate, rest gate. Open. An even more surging and powerful force, like a flood bursting its banks, burst forth from his body. The faint green glow on his body suddenly intensified. Fine beads of sweat seeped from his forehead, but were instantly evaporated by the high temperature emanating from his body. Its tiny body seemed to have transformed into a human-shaped energy source. This brat. His aura is still growing. Sasaki, who was locked in combat with Doberman, glanced at the sky amidst his busy work and looked surprised. The aura emanating from the young master at this moment is even more concentrated and more dangerous than when he released his Conqueror's Haki earlier. The third gate, the gate of life, open. Lin's voice trembled with a hint of pain, but more than that, it was filled with an unwavering determination. Boom! It was as if an invisible shackle had been completely broken. The energy within him erupted like a volcano, reaching a whole new level. The green glow was almost tangible, forming a thin layer of energy around him. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. The ferocious smile on Onigumo's face froze completely, replaced by astonishment. He could feel the oppressive aura emanating from the baby, which made even a lieutenant general in his headquarters feel a pang of fear. A little kid who's just over a year old. How could such terrifying power be unleashed? Can his body withstand it? The flying squirrel's expression also became extremely solemn as he stared intently at Lin. He had seen this kind of secret technique that forcibly stimulates power before, but without exception, it would cause a huge burden and damage to the body. Is this baby burning its own life? Fourth gate of injury. Open. Lin clenched her small teeth, and the veins on her forehead bulged. Hiss, hiss, hiss. An even more concentrated green energy, like steam, burst forth from every pore of his body. His small body was enveloped in a thick layer of green steam, and only a blurry outline could be vaguely seen. Gulp. Doberman swallowed hard, his movements stiffening slightly as he confronted Sasaki. What the hell is this? A naval soldier couldn't help but scream. Fifth gate of closure. Open. Lin's voice had become noticeably hoarse and hoarse. With a roar, the green steam around him suddenly expanded, and its color became even deeper. His current aura is comparable to that of a major general. Onigumo broke out in a cold sweat. He had a very bad premonition. If this little monster continues like this, something really bad is going to happen. He roared, swinging his 8 sword-wielding arms in unison, trying to rush forward and stop him. However, sixth view gate. Open. Sizzle. The green steam enveloping his body suddenly exploded. Instead, a more violent and intense torrent of energy has emerged. His eyes, which had originally glowed with a green fluorescent light, had now turned completely white, as if flames were burning within them. His imposing presence radiated throughout the entire venue. Damn it. That brat. He hasn't stopped yet. The flying squirrel's face had turned extremely pale. This force has far exceeded their understanding of an infant. Moreover, judging from the sheer scale of the event, they're now on par with their lieutenant generals. Sasaki was stunned, his mouth agape, and he almost dropped the spiral blade in his hand. A little over 1 year old. How can one possess such imposing presence? He knew that young Master Lin was a monster, but he never expected him to be this monstrous. Just when everyone thought this was the limit, Lin's small body jolted violently. He raised his head and let out a roar that was not like that of a baby, but full of wildness and power. Seventh gate of shock. Open. Boom. In an instant, a terrifying aura far surpassing any of the previous ones erupted from Lin's small body. The energy emanating from his body was no longer green, but blue steam like burning flames. Blue sweat poured out of his body like raindrops, only to be instantly evaporated by the terrifyingly high temperature on his skin. The air around his small body crackled and popped from the intense heat. At this moment, Lin, who was less than half a meter tall, was suspended in midair, his eyes devoid of any emotion, and his pure white eyes seemed to be able to see through all illusions. In everyone's eyes, he was like a small, azure demon god. Blue steam. Onigumo's eyes almost bulged out of their sockets. This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. The flying squirrel smelled the scent of death in the blue steam. The pressure emanating from this brat is already no weaker than that of Momousagi and Chatten. Doberman was so serious that he broke out in a cold sweat. This also means the little brat in front of me already possesses strength comparable to a candidate general. Chapter 8. One kick defeats Doberman. shocking the entire audience. No, we can't access the 8 gates. Lin tried to open the door, but couldn't get it open at all. 7 gates is already the limit of his current abilities. Even without side effects, he is only 1 year and 3 months old. Even if his physique is extraordinary, he cannot withstand such a huge drain. But that's enough. Lin's gaze locked onto the figure below that posed the greatest threat to him. Doberman. That muscular man who almost killed Sasaki just now. Well, let's test the power of the 7 gates on you. Ida. He let out a short, powerful roar. Next second. Boom. His small body, like an arrow released from a bow, like a cannonball fired from a gun, suddenly swooped down from the sky. Extremely fast. So fast that it's almost impossible to see with the naked eye. Only a blurry blue afterimage remained in midair, along with a sharp, explosive sound from the intense friction of the air. Oh no. He's charging at us. The Oni spider roared, its 8 sword-like arms crossing over in an attempt to block the way. The flying squirrel reacted extremely quickly, stomping its feet and attempting to use shave to block Doberman's path. But it's too late. Lin's speed has exceeded their reaction limits. Swish! His small figure appeared in front of Doberman, as if by teleportation. Doberman's pupils constricted sharply. He didn't have time to think. His body's instincts made him tense all his muscles instantly, and armament Haki covered his body. Iron block. He roared and tried to withstand the blow with his strongest defense. However, Lin's small fist, enveloped in blue steam, slammed into Doberman's chest with unstoppable force. Bang! A deafening explosion. It was like a giant hammer, smashing down on the fine steel. Doberman's prized iron block was as fragile as paper in front of that tiny fist. Click, click. The sound of bones shattering was clearly audible. Doberman's body arched violently, his facial muscles contorted, and his eyes filled with unbelievable pain and horror. Puff! He opened his mouth and spat out a cloud of blood mixed with fragments of internal organs, his body flying backward as if hit head-on by a train. Ramble! Doberman's massive body, like a tattered sack, smashed through the fortress's sturdy outer wall, carving a long trench before disappearing into the ruins. The whole process was incredibly fast, happening in the blink of an eye. It took less than a second from Lin's dive to blasting Doberman away. The battlefield fell into a deathly silence once again. Everyone who was still conscious, including Onagumo and Squirrel, stood frozen in place, like clay sculptures. They looked at the baby floating in midair, its body steaming with blue vapor, and then looked in the direction where Doberman had disappeared. My mind went completely blank. Doberman, Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters. Known for his martial arts and slashing skills, he is a ruthless character nicknamed Fighting Dog. He was sent flying by a single punch from a baby who was just over a year old, and his fate is unknown. And this was even with iron blocks used for defense. What? What kind of monster is this? Sasaki was completely dumbfounded, his mouth agape wide enough to fit a watermelon. He knew that young Master Lin was strong, had strong Conqueror's Haki, and could fly. But opening some unknown door could send a lieutenant general flying. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. He thought he was dreaming. He sent Doberman flying with a single punch. The entire battlefield was deathly silent. You could hear a pin drop. All eyes, whether on the Navy or the remnants of the Beast's pirates, were fixed on the small figure in midair. Blue steam swirled around him, and his pure white eyes were devoid of any emotion. Lin was like a god or demon descended to Earth. Just then, a cold system notification sounded in his mind. Ding! Detected that the host has decisively defeated a vice admiral from the Navy headquarters. Mission challenge above your level. Completed. Task evaluation perfect. Mission rewards huge increase in Conqueror's Haki cap. An invisible warm current flowed through my body, as if a dried-up riverbed had been nourished by rain. The mental energy that had been somewhat depleted from forcibly activating Conqueror's Haki seemed to have been replenished. But that's far from enough. Lin's face remained tense. He could clearly feel the violent power within his body, generated by the 8 gates formation, rapidly dissipating. Opening the 7th gate, the gate of shock, is far too much of a burden for his current young body. Even the optimized version without side effects can't withstand this level of consumption. He was able to forcefully unleash that punch just now. It was already a very difficult task. His chest heaved violently as he gasped for breath. Each breath carried hot, white steam. The blue steam swirling around him visibly began to thin, and its color gradually dimmed. The terrifying aura that almost froze one's soul began to weaken. He seems to be failing. A sharp-eyed naval officer, his voice trembling, pointed at Lin in midair. These words were like a boulder thrown into a calm lake. It's true. Look. The blue steam around him has decreased. The momentum is also weakening. Damn it. That scared the hell out of me. I thought I was really going to die here today. The relief of escaping death brought some naval soldiers to tears of joy. Onigumo and Momonga exchanged a glance, both seeing in each other's eyes a hint of shock at surviving a close call and a renewed fighting spirit. This brat. He's definitely overdrawing his power. Oni Spider's eyes turned cold. That last burst was probably his final outburst. That's right. A glint flashed in the flying squirrel's eyes, and he said in a deep voice, although Doberman was sent flying, this brat is definitely not in good shape either. He is at his weakest point right now. Grab him. As long as we capture him alive, it doesn't matter if the mission to attack G58 fails today. Using him to control Kaido. This sea will be much more peaceful. The fear in their eyes faded, replaced by an even more fervent sense of justice. Everyone who can still move. Listen up. The ghost spider roared, its 8 spider-arm-like blades pointing at Lin. Capture that brat alive at all costs. Taking him down is equivalent to securing at least 10 years of peace over this sea. Yes. The surviving naval officers listened to my command. They roared, brandishing guns and knives, and once again surrounded Lin. Although they were still shaken, they also knew how important Lin was. To fight to the death for justice and peace. Damn it. You despicable Navy men. Sasaki, his eyes bloodshot, dragged his heavily injured body and brandished his spiral blade, trying to charge forward. Protect young Master Lin. However, few of his Beast's Pirates crew members remained, and all of them were wounded, making them no match for the ferocious Marines. It looked like the Navy's encirclement was about to be completed. In midair, Lin's pure white eyes flashed with a crazy determination. Are they trying to take advantage of my illness and kill me? It's not that easy. I'll fight you to the death. Roar. Lin looked up and let out a roar that was not like that of a baby, but full of primal wildness. His small body jolted violently. The remaining energy in his body, like the last fuel, was ignited without hesitation. The 8th gate, the gate of death. Chapter 9. The Navy was scared off by 8 gates. He used all his strength to roar out each word. Boom! An aura several times more terrifying than when the seventh gate was opened suddenly exploded from his body. The thin blue steam was instantly replaced by a deeper, more ominous, blood-red steam. Blood-red steam, like boiling magma, churned and roared violently around his small body. The air crackled and popped as it was scorched, and fine black cracks began to appear in the space itself. This moment, time stood still. Everyone froze. Those Marines who had just been charging forward with great momentum were frozen in place, their faces filled with extreme fear and disbelief. Their bodies were trembling violently and uncontrollably. What kind of power is this? This aura made them feel that if they got even a little closer, they would be completely evaporated, leaving not even ashes behind. The ferocity on the faces of the Oni spider and the flying squirrel was completely replaced by boundless horror. They opened their mouths wide, making strange, clucking sounds from their throats, but they couldn't utter a single complete syllable. My heart was about to jump out of my chest. Blood-red steam. Are you kidding me? This little monster. He can actually open doors. General. I've only ever felt this kind of aura from generals. Thump. Some naval soldiers couldn't withstand the terrifying pressure, and their legs went weak, causing them to kneel on the ground, their crotches becoming wet and hot. Even Sasaki, who was far away, was so shocked by this sudden and terrifying aura that he retreated repeatedly, his face drained of all color. This aura. It's almost on par with Kaido. Sasagi found it hard to believe. The height that he could never reach in his entire life was achieved by a baby who was just over 1 year old. Just as the entire battlefield fell into a deathly silence because of Lin's desperate act, and all the Marines were terrified. Tread, tread, tread. A series of extremely hurried footsteps came from the outer perimeter of the island. A naval messenger on lookout duty scrambled and stumbled, his face contorted with the terror of losing his parents, and rushed toward Onigumo and Momonga. Lieutenant General. No, something terrible has happened. The messenger's voice was shrill and distorted with extreme fear. What's the panic? Suppressing his fear, Onigumo roared in a fierce but cowardly manner. But he himself didn't realize that his voice was trembling. It's the Beast's pirates. The Beast's pirates' reinforcements. The messenger practically cried out. Jaehin. It's Jaehin the Wildfire. He's leading the fleet himself. A massive army of warships. They're almost at the port. What? Upon hearing this, Onigumo and Momonga were struck dumb, their bodies trembling violently. The flame of extinction. The top of Kaido's 3 commanders. That terrifying monster with a bounty exceeding 1 billion berries. He arrived so quickly. The two of them looked up sharply at the small figure, enveloped in blood-red steam in midair. Then look around at the Navy personnel, who were almost scared out of their wits. A chill ran from the soles of my feet, straight up to the top of my head. Oops! A little monster that hasn't even been weaned has caused them such great losses. Now another big one has arrived. If these two factors are combined, not only will they be unable to complete their mission today, but they may even become prisoners of the beasts, thus putting the Navy at their mercy. Retreat. Everyone retreat. The ghost spider and the flying squirrel roared almost simultaneously. Quick! Get on the boat. Get off this damn island. The naval personnel dared not delay and hurriedly fled towards their warships at sea. Escape. Escape this nightmarish island. Escape from that little monster that's more terrifying than a demon. In the blink of an eye, The navy that had originally intended to besiege Lin had completely disappeared. The beach was left in a state of chaos, littered with wounded people, watching the naval fleet flee in disarray. Midair. The crimson steam on Lin's body receded rapidly, like a receding tide. His eyes, which had been burning with blood-red flames, regained the clarity of an infant. The 8 gates still haven't been fully opened. Puff. Her small body could no longer support her weight, and like a kite with a broken string, she fell straight down from midair. Young Master Lin. Sasaki's expression changed drastically. Ignoring his injuries, he rushed over and caught Lin in his arms just as he was about to land. Upon touching her, Lin's small body was alarmingly hot, her breathing was weak, and she had already fallen into a coma due to exhaustion. It's likely that he won't wake up for at least 10 days to 2 weeks. This is the price of forcibly opening the 8 gates. Sasaki looked at the unconscious Lin in his arms, then at the naval fleet that had turned into black dots in the distance, and his face showed an extremely complicated expression. Not long after, Sasaki. A large, dark shadow flew rapidly from the sky. It then landed quickly, transforming into a tall, imposing figure covered entirely in black leather, with flames burning behind it. It is none other than the Beast's Pirate's top scout, King the Wildfire. Young Master Lin. What is he doing here? Jin was surprised. I looked up again. The naval fleet that was fleeing in panic in the distance and was about to disappear on the horizon couldn't help but frown. Sasagi, what's going on? His cold voice rang out, carrying an unquestionable authority. Young Master Lin, how did things get like this? And the Navy. They just ran away like that. The elite beasts also rushed over at this moment and were equally bewildered upon seeing the scene. They received an urgent plea for help from Sasaki, who said they were under attack by a vice admiral from the Navy headquarters and were in a critical situation. Why did the Navy flee for their lives, as if they had seen a ghost when they arrived? Jin. Boss Jin. Sasaki carried the unconscious Lin and staggered over, his face a mixture of exhaustion, lingering fear, and an indescribable fervor. It was young Master Lin. It was young Master Lin who drove the Navy away. This statement came out. The entire room fell silent. King and all the Beast Pirates members he brought were petrified on the spot. Their eyes widened in disbelief, and their jaws nearly dropped to the ground. Chapter 10. The Shock to the Naval Admirals. What did you say? Jin wondered if he had misheard. Young Master Lin. He drove away those 3 Marine headquarters vice admirals and so many Marines. Are you kidding me? Those are 3 lieutenant generals from headquarters. It's not some random cat or dog. Absolutely true. Boss Jin. Sasaki, his face flushed and neck bulging with excitement, began to recount everything that had just happened, spitting as he spoke. From the moment young Master Lin made his godlike entrance, his terrifying Conqueror's Haki swept the scene. Later, the unbelievable 8 gates formation was used, and Doberman was sent flying with a single punch. And finally, there was that blood-red steam that terrified all the Navy personnel. Every word, every sentence was like a heavy hammer, striking hard into the hearts of Jin and everyone else. Listening to Sasaki's rambling yet thrilling description, everyone was completely dumbfounded. My head was buzzing, and my eyes were practically popping out of their sockets. A little kid who's not even 2 years old. Conqueror's Haki stunned thousands of Marines. Opening the 8 gates formation. One punch, and he'd cripple a lieutenant general. Finally, it even unleashed a burst of blood-red steam that could crack the very fabric of space. This Must be a mythological story, right? Jin stared intently at Lin, who was in Sasaki's arms, breathing weakly with a pale face, yet still possessing a delicate and exquisite appearance. For the first time, his tall frame trembled slightly. It's not because of fear. Rather, it was a profound shock, originating from the depths of the soul. That power, that posture, a long-forgotten name, flashed uncontrollably through Jin's mind. A name that exists only in legends. Joy Boy. Is it? Jaehin's eyes became incredibly complex, filled with horror, disbelief, and even a hint of frantic anticipation that he himself didn't realize. Marine Headquarters, Marineford. Marshal's office. The atmosphere was heavy. Fleet Admiral Sengoku, the Buddha, is discussing a momentous event that could shake the entire world with Marine hero Garp, Chief of Staff Tsuru, and 3 admirals, Akinu, Kizaru, and Aokiji. Marshal teach, how dare he commit such a heinous crime on the Whitebeard's ship? Sengoku rubbed his temples, his face grave. Whitebeard Newgate will absolutely not let this go. For the time being, issue a strict order. All Marines are absolutely forbidden from provoking the Whitebeard pirates. Garp picked his nose and said nonchalantly, "Ha ha ha, that old guy's probably so angry his moustache is standing on end." Crane glared at him. "Garp, what time is it for you to make such sarcastic remarks? The repercussions of this are immeasurable." Kizaru, on the other hand, looked lazy, a signature lewd smile playing on his lips. Oh dear, how terrifying Tilda Blackbeard, what a troublemaker Tilda. Akinu's face was ashen, and he didn't say a word, but the murderous intent in his eyes was almost tangible. Aokiji leaned back on the sofa, closing his eyes to rest, seemingly lost in thought. Just then, a person appeared at the office door. A blood-soaked and disheveled naval vice admiral stood at the doorway. A flying squirrel. Everyone looked over. His expression was one of surprise. War, Marshal of the Sengoku period. The flying squirrel's voice was hoarse, and its face showed undisguised shame. And a hint of heart palpitations. Sengoku's brow furrowed at the sight of his miserable state. Flying squirrel. What happened to you? What about G-58 Island? Did you take it? What about Onigumo and Doberman? The flying squirrel lowered its head even further. Reporting to the Marshal. G-58. Mission failed. We've lost. What? Zhang Guo suddenly stood up, and the temperature in the office dropped abruptly. Garp stopped picking his nose, and Tsuru's expression turned serious. The 3 generals all turned their gazes toward the flying squirrel. Defeat. Sengoku was furious. You 3 lieutenant generals, leading over 1,000 elite troops, were defeated by a mere Sasaki. What about Doberman and Spider-Man? The flying squirrel trembled even more violently. Lieutenant General Doberman. He was severely wounded by the enemy, fell unconscious on the spot, and his fate is unknown. Lieutenant General Onigumo and we were forced to retreat. Boom! The entire office was completely dumbfounded. Doberman is seriously injured and in a coma. 3 lieutenant generals from headquarters were actually forced to retreat. How is this possible? Who is the enemy? Sengoku forced himself to remain calm and asked in a low voice, did Kaido personally intervene? Or did all the top members of the Beast's pirates come out in full force? He couldn't think of any other force that could have brought 3 lieutenant generals to such a state. The flying squirrel swallowed hard, raised its head, and its eyes were filled with extreme fear and absurdity. No, Marshal. Those who did it. He's Kaido's son. A child who's probably not even 2 years old. Dead silence. A deathly silence so profound you could hear a pin drop. The anger on Sengoku's face froze instantly. Garp's mouth dropped open, and his eyes nearly bulged out. The crane gasped. Kizaru's ever-present, lewd smile froze on his face. Akinu and Aokiji both widened their eyes, revealing expressions of disbelief. A child. They managed to kill one and send 2 of the 3 Navy headquarters vice admirals to their deaths. What kind of international joke is this? Chapter 11. The Navy has put a bounty on Lin. 10 billion berries. Flying squirrel. Sengoku's temples throbbed with veins, and he practically spat out the words through clenched teeth. Explain yourself clearly. What exactly happened? Marshal, it's like this. The flying squirrel began to recount the whole story. But then they heard a small black dot flying in from the sky. Etc. Akinu immediately interrupted. In the sky. You mean that little guy can fly? Yes, Admiral Sakazuki. He can fly. Without any warning, he flies through the sky like a ghost. Garp stopped picking his nose and opened his mouth wide. Flying. Is that brat a power user? His brows were furrowed into a deep frown. Everyone else could only think of this one possibility. It can fly. Then 99% of them are undoubtedly gifted individuals. Then the flying squirrel mentioned the ultimate Conqueror's Haki. Upon learning that this overwhelming aura had even paralyzed 3 lieutenant generals, rendering them unable to move for a short period, the entire audience fell silent, their brows furrowed in deep concentration. So young. The Conqueror's Haki is so intense. It's easy to imagine how amazing this kid's future potential is. Even if he can fly and has top-tier Conqueror's Haki. What's up with Doberman? He's known for his defense. The flying squirrel's face showed even greater fear. That brat. He knows a weird move. He kept shouting, open the door. Close the door. All the way up to the 7th door. With each shout, his aura surged dramatically. From green steam to blue steam. Lieutenant General Doberman was punched when he was emitting blue steam. Recalling that scene, the flying squirrel couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. One punch sent him flying. The iron block couldn't have blocked it at all. The office was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Kizaru's perpetually lazy expression also softened considerably, and he muttered to himself. Oh my gosh, Tilda, the door's open. Blue steam. This is something I've never heard of before, Tilda. Akinu's eyes were sinister as he spoke in a cold voice. Not a devil fruit. The flying squirrel shook its head violently. Absolutely not. That power. Pure violent. It's not any known devil fruit ability at all. And finally, he even wanted to open the 8th gate. Crimson steam was rising from his body. We could sense that Brat's strength was enough to threaten our lives, so we had no choice but to retreat. Blood-red steam. A threat to the Lieutenant General's life. Zhang Guo felt a sudden dizziness and almost couldn't catch his breath. He slammed his hand on the table. You bastard! What kind of monster is this? How could that bastard Kaido have given birth to such a monster? Garp unusually didn't smile. His expression was serious. Opening the door. Increasing strength. This sounds like the ultimate application of physical techniques. But for a 1 or 2-year-old child to perform this, that's outrageous. The crane pondered. This ability has never appeared in any intelligence reports. Even the origins of this brat weren't mentioned at all. Zhang Guo took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He looked at the highest-ranking naval personnel present. Gentlemen, this brat's threat has exceeded our expectations. A child not even 2 years old was able to severely injure a lieutenant general and force our army to retreat. If we let him grow up, the consequences could be disastrous. The atmosphere in the office was so heavy it was suffocating. It must be nipped in the bud. Akinu spoke with murderous intent, the power of the magma fruit making the air around him scorching hot. This monster must not be allowed to live. Kizaru pushed up his glasses. Well, that's true, but Kaido isn't someone to be trifled with either. Aokiji also opened his eyes, a rare occurrence for him, with a hint of laziness. A brat who can fly and unleash that kind of power is indeed a big problem. Zhang Yu's sharp eyes swept over the crowd. We can't wait any longer. Immediately, issue a bounty to the entire world. He gritted his teeth and said it word by word. Kaido's son, Lin. Reward amount. During the Warring States period, his fists were clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. 1 billion peels. Life or death is irrelevant. 1 billion. A look of surprise flashed across the eyes of everyone present. Even Garp grinned when he heard the number. A little kid, 1 billion berries. This is truly unprecedented. The crane nodded. Given the potential and threat he has demonstrated, this price is worth it. The whole world must understand the danger this baby poses. Kizaru curled his lip. 1 billion. This is going to be amazing. Bounty hunters all over the world are going to go crazy. Akinu snorted coldly. Offering a bounty is only the first step. We must find him as soon as possible and eliminate him completely. Good. The decision was made during the Warring States period. It's settled then. Execute immediately. At the same time. New World, Demon Island. Boom. With a deafening roar, Kaido's massive, mountain-like body, filled with earth-shattering rage, plummeted from the sky and crashed into the center of Onigashima. Ember. Kaido's roar shook the entire island. Where's my son? Where's Lin? He had just heard, young Master Lin is unconscious, from an emergency den mushy, and immediately transformed into a dragon, rushing back from the expeditionary sea area at top speed. That violent aura silenced all the members of the Beast's pirates. King Jin, accompanied by a group of his officers, hurriedly came to greet them. Mr. Kaido, please calm down. A rare complex expression crossed Jin's face. Young Master Lin. He's all right. He just fainted from exhaustion. Out of strength. Kaido's large, bell-like eyes glared at King, his anger almost bursting forth. Who did this? Which bastard dared to lay a hand on my son? I'll tear him to pieces. Jin took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Mr. Kaido, things are a bit complicated. You'd better hear Sasaki's report for yourself. Soon, Sasaki, still injured, was brought up. After Kaido heard the whole story from Sasaki's rambling, yet horrified and fanatical description, the rage on his ferocious dragon face gradually subsided. Instead, there was disbelief, astonishment, and bewilderment. Conqueror's Haki stuns thousands of marines. Flying, it's flying. Open the door. Green steam. Blue steam. He punched a vice admiral and sent him flying. Finally, the blood-red steam. scared away all the Navy. Kaido counted the items on his fingers, one by one, his expression shifting unpredictably. He turned his head and looked at Jin. Jin, has Sasaki gone mad from being beaten? Is he talking nonsense? Jae-hin's expression was also extremely strange. Mr. Kaido, what Sasaki said is probably true. When we arrived, the Navy was indeed fleeing in disarray. And judging from the extent of the destruction at the scene and the horrific state of that piece of trash Doberman was when he was found. Kaido fell silent. His enormous dragon head slowly lowered, looking at his fist, which was bigger than a sandbag. Then he thought about Lin's small figure, which was less than half a meter tall. Puff! A strange sound came from his throat, followed by ha-hee-hee, ha-ha-ha-ha, woohoo. Chapter 12. The world is in an uproar. Lin the demon child. The old lady is insanely jealous. A deafening burst of maniacal laughter suddenly erupted from Kaido's mouth. The entire island of demons trembled violently at his terrifying laughter. Rocks tumbled down the mountain, and all the beasts howled in agony. My son. That's my son. Kaido laughed wildly, tears streaming down his face. Not even 2 years old. And he's already using a vice admiral as a punching bag. He can even open doors. Blood-red steam. Whoosh. Great. That's wonderful. This is truly Kaido's offspring. Surpass me. Come on, try it, kid. Kaido's laughter was filled with unparalleled pride and arrogance. The others saw this. They all cast unprecedentedly intense gazes at Lin, who was still fast asleep. World Economic News Agency's reports were everywhere. Their sharp cries scattered the latest newspapers across every corner of the sea. Whether it's a bustling island town, a pirate ship roaming the Grand Line, or a heavily guarded naval branch. Countless people saw the front page headline of that newspaper at the same time. The bold, black title is menacing and eye-catching. World shock. Kaido's young son appears. Marine Branch G58 suffers devastating strike. Nija Lin. The Navy headquarters has set an unprecedented bounty of 1 billion berries. The photo shows a blurry infant figure enveloped in blood-red steam. Although the faces were obscured, the ominous and terrifying aura emanating from the paper sent chills down the spines of everyone who saw it. 1 billion. A number that sends chills down your spine. What's more, the target of the bounty is a baby. Am I seeing things? 1 billion. And he's just a child. One of the pirates rubbed his eyes hard, and the wine glass in his hand fell to the deck with a clatter. Kaido's son. That monster actually has a son. Demon child. That nickname is fucking apt. This isn't a baby, it's a little devil. Has the Navy gone mad? Offering $1 billion bounty on a baby. You know nothing. Look at the state of G58 branch. 3 lieutenant generals from headquarters, 1 half dead, 2 fleeing in a sorry state. Could an ordinary baby have done this? In an instant, the entire ocean was in an uproar. Countless voices of discussion, exclamations, and gasps of surprise rose and fell in every corner of the world. The name Demon Child, Lin, swept across the world like a hurricane. The Beast's pirates were already infamous for their ferocity. Now another Demon Child, with even more terrifying potential, has emerged. This ocean is about to undergo a complete transformation. New world, Whole Cake Island. inside Queen Charlotte Linlin's castle in Toto Land, the Kingdom of Worlds. Oh my God. That bastard Kaido. He really got incredibly lucky. Big Mom sat on a specially made throne, her enormous body limp. She had just finished reading the newspaper in her hand, her face ashen, her voice filled with undisguised jealousy and rage. The air was filled with the sweet aroma of cake, but at that moment it was mixed with a suffocatingly low pressure. She crumpled the newspaper into a ball and threw it on the ground. A brat who's not even 2 years old. 1 billion berries. 1 billion. Big Mom spittle was flying everywhere. Where are my sons and daughters? Perospero. Katakuri. Smoothie. You bunch of useless trash. Good-for-nothings. She roared angrily, her gaze sweeping over her children who stood silently below. Look at Kaido's son. And look at you. They all call themselves elites, but what's the result? They can't even compare to a little kid. Why couldn't I have given birth to such a successful child? Perospero licked his candy cane and forced a smile. Well, Mom, Kaido just got lucky. Good luck. Big Mom slammed his hand on the armrest, causing the entire castle to tremble. Damn it. Is it possible to find a monster like this by sheer luck? If even one of you had half the skill of that brat, would I be in such a passive position right now? Katakuri remained silent, his scarlet scarf concealing his expression, but his clenched fists betrayed his inner turmoil. Smoothie dared not utter a sound, for fear of angering her furious mother. The other members of the Charlotte family didn't dare to breathe too loudly. Big Mom grew angrier the more she thought about it, grabbed a homey cake made of souls next to her, and stuffed it into her mouth. I'm so jealous. That damned Kaido. Why does he get all the good things? No way. I have to find a way to make something even more amazing. Greed and resentment gleamed in her eyes. The appearance of this demon child made her feel unprecedented pressure and deep jealousy. The second half of the Grand Line, the New World. Moby Dick. Edward Newgate, the white-bearded man, sat upright in a huge captain's chair, holding a wine bowl that was as large as he was. He's been feeling really down lately because of that traitor Teach. The atmosphere on the ship was somewhat oppressive. Dad. Marco the Phoenix walked over slowly, holding a newspaper, his expression somewhat strange. Oh, any new news? Gururara. The white-bearded man took a big gulp of wine, his deep voice carrying a unique laugh. Marco handed over the newspaper. It's about Kaido of the Beasts. He has another son, and the Navy has a bounty on his head. The white-bearded man took the newspaper, his huge fingers gripping the thin paper, his gaze fixed on the headline. When he saw the words, Lin the Demon Child, 1 billion berries, he paused slightly while drinking. The air was silent for a few seconds. Gurala, la la la. Whitebeard suddenly let out a low laugh. A brat with 1 billion berries. Kaido really knows how to make this see a spectacle. He tossed the newspaper aside, picked up the wine bowl, and took another big gulp. On the surface, he didn't seem to care. But Marco keenly sensed a complex emotion flashing deep in his father's eyes when he saw the news. There was surprise, solemnity, and a hint of barely perceptible displeasure. The captains of the Whitebeard pirates also gathered around in 2s and 3s to look at the newspaper. 1 billion. Are you kidding me? That's more than the combined bounties of several of our team leaders. Kaido's son, he sounds like a monster. If this kid grows up, what will become of him? Amid the murmurs, the white-bearded man picked up his wine bowl again. He gazed at the churning sea, his eyes deep and unfathomable. Someone else's son. He muttered something under his breath, so softly that only he could hear it. Blackbeard Teach's betrayal was like a knife to his heart. Now another demon child of Kaido has emerged. This contrast left the old man, who regarded all the crew members as sons, with mixed feelings. Chapter 13 adds 2 new missions. Attempt to open all 8 gates. A new world, a certain sea area. The flagship of the red-haired pirates, the Red Fox. A banquet was being held on the ship, and Shanks, as always, was raising a bottle of wine and drinking heartily with the crew. Captain, Captain, look at this. Yasopp came running over, waving a newspaper and shouting. Oh, what's got you so excited, Yasopp? Shanks grinned and took the newspaper. When his gaze fell on Lin the Demon Child, $1 billion bounty, the smile on his face gradually faded, turning into a hint of surprise. Wow! A baby worth 1 billion berries. He stroked his chin, his eyes becoming playful. That Kaido guy, he actually had this trick up his sleeve. Lucky Roo, with a chicken leg dangling from his mouth, mumbled, "This brat sounds scarier than Kaido." Ben Beckman, puffing on a cigar, calmly analyzed the situation. A baby that the Navy headquarters takes so seriously and offers a bounty of 1 billion is definitely not simple. His arrival is likely to disrupt the existing balance of the new world. Shanks nodded, a thoughtful look flashing in his eyes. Yes, this sea is becoming more and more turbulent. He put down the newspaper, picked up the bottle, and took another swig. A mere baby poses such a threat. This era is truly spiraling out of control. He looked at Ben Beckman. It seems we need to speed things up. That child situation has further solidified my resolve. Shanks's eyes sharpened. Ben, how's the letter to old man Whitebeard coming along? We must meet with him as soon as possible. The appearance of this demon child is just the beginning. Next, there will likely be even more astonishing changes on this vast sea. Ben Beckman nodded, his expression grave. Understood, Captain. I will arrange for the Lockstar to be sent over tomorrow. Eh? 1 billion. 1 billion berries, woohoo. My son, Kaido's son, even with his first bounty, surpasses the entire world. Ha-ha-ha-ha. Kaido's booming, deafening voice exploded in his ears. A bounty of 1 billion. Lin opened his eyes and immediately saw Kaido, who was as huge as a small mountain, waving a bounty poster in his hand. Above it was his own portrait, along with that dazzling string of numbers. A genuine billion berries. Whoa! He's awake. The little devil's awake. When Kaido discovered that Lin had woken up, his enormous dragon face was almost touching him, his copper bell-like eyes filled with undisguised excitement and pride, and his hot breath was almost blowing onto Lin's face. Young Master Lin. Young Master is awake. Around them, King, Queen, Jack, and the Flying Six, including Who's Who and Black Maria, all gathered around, their faces filled with barely suppressed fervor and awe. The way they looked at Lin was no longer simply as an infant in need of protection, but as a true maritime overlord destined to stir up the winds and waves in the future. How are you feeling, kid? Kaido grinned, his large, fan-like hand cautiously trying to touch Lin, but his movements were somewhat clumsy, as if he were afraid of accidentally hurting his precious adopted son. Lin blinked her big, clear eyes and moved her small body slightly. He still remembered the time he failed to force his way into the 8th gate, and then everything went black as he lost consciousness. Ding! Host awakens. Bodily functions have largely recovered. New task added. 1. Activate and unleash the 8th gate of the 8 inner gates formation, the Gate of Death. Quest reward: 1 random ability from the myriad realms. 2. Intercept Lockster's letter. Mission reward: massive increase in stamina. 3. Before the age of 3, current age 1 year and 3 months, defeat a character with the strength of a Shichibukai or higher in a direct confrontation. Mission reward: 1 random ability from the multiverse. In my mind, the cold system notification sounded right on time. Lin frowned slightly as she looked at the task details that appeared on the screen. Intercepting Lockstar's letter. Wasn't that the letter that the red-haired pirates sent to Whitebeard? To carry out this mission means that it is very likely that we will have direct or indirect contact with the 2 Yonko, Whitebeard and Shanks. This is no joke. Another example is defeating a Shichibuka-level figure before the age of 3. He is only a little over a year old. Although he can unleash amazing power with the 8 gates, none of the 7 warlords of the sea are seasoned veterans with extensive experience. But the difference in strength between the 7 warlords of the sea is enormous. He could pick on the easy targets. But then, doesn't that mean we've offended the world government behind the 7 warlords of the sea again? In his last mission, he had already offended the Navy. He ended up with a 1 billion berry bounty on his head. If it weren't for the faction of Kaido of the Beasts protecting him, he probably wouldn't have survived to wake up. As a result, his next 2 missions led him to offend 2 of the 4 emperors and the world government. Is the system trying to kill him by making him live too long and sending him to meet the king of hell sooner? Kid, that Sasaki guy was bragging to me about some kind of door-opening technique you used, and how it even produced blood-red steam at the end. Kaido's booming voice interrupted Lin's thoughts. His eyes burned with anticipation as he stared at Lin. Demonstrate it again. I want to see for myself what kind of power that is. Oh dear, Mr. Kaido, young Master Lin has only just woken up, and his body is probably not fully recovered yet, is it? Quinn chimed in with a sly grin, a fawning smile plastered on his fat face, but his eyes were also filled with barely suppressed curiosity and longing. That's right, Governor Kaido. That level of power outburst must have taken a toll on young Master Lin. It would be best to let him rest more. Jin also spoke up, his tone tinged with concern, but his fiery eyes were also fixed on Lin, clearly eager to see him too. They had all heard the almost mythical descriptions from Sasaki. The Conqueror's Haki clearing the field, the punching of a lieutenant general, and the blood-red steam. But hearsay is never as impactful as witnessing it firsthand. Especially the 8th gate that Sasaki mentioned, which is said to be capable of destroying the world, is so exciting and captivating that just hearing about it makes one's blood boil and one yearns for it. Lin glanced at Kaido, who was full of anticipation and couldn't wait to have him perform, and then swept his gaze over the eager eyes of the beast pirates officers around him. He actually wanted to try again. Although the previous attempt to forcefully break through the 8th gate failed, resulting in severe physical exhaustion, the third old task prompted by the system, limit breakthrough, opening and casting the 8th gate of the 8 gates formation, the Gate of Death, is rewarded with a new opportunity to draw abilities from the myriad worlds. He was really tempted by this reward. If he can acquire a new ability this time, whatever it may be, it will be a huge boost to his strength. Thinking of this, Lin nodded solemnly. He sat up straight on the cushion that Kaido had specially prepared for him, which was made of the softest giant beast fur. Yeah. I'll give it a try. Oh. Upon seeing this, Kaido's eyes lit up instantly, and he excitedly rubbed his large, fan-like hands together, making a series of cracking sounds from his knuckles. Is it coming? My men, open your eyes wide and look carefully. This is my son, Kaido's son. The beast's pirates' officers, including the three disasters, held their breath, their eyes fixed intently on the small figure in the center of the field, afraid of missing a single detail. Chapter 14. Gain a new ability, Amaterasu. Lin's small body sank slightly, and a solemnity and gravity appeared on his tender face that was completely out of character for his age. Open the door, open. A childish voice rang out, yet it carried an undeniable resolve. The first gate. Open the gate, releasing the brain's restriction on the flow of chakra in the body. Boom! A powerful gust of air suddenly spread outwards from him. Green steam rose from his body like a thin mist, and a faint green glow appeared in his dark eyes. Open the door. The second gate, the rest gate, forcibly squeezes the body's physical recovery speed. The aura rose again. The green steam became even more concentrated. The gate of life, open. Open the gate of injury. Door closed, open. Jing gate. Open. Lin opened 6 doors in one go. The steam rising from his body gradually changed from pure green to a light blue with a hint of heat. Powerful, heart-pounding energy surges, like tangible ripples, assaulted the nerves of everyone present. Among the flying 6, the weaker ones, Black Maria and Page One, couldn't help but take a few steps back, their faces showing undisguised horror. Is this young Master Lin's true power? Ulti's big eyes were filled with shock. This is terrifying. With each door opened, the power increases exponentially. Forsford's eyes were solemn. He could feel that Lin's aura was now no less than his own. Kaido grinned, his enormous dragon eyes bulging like saucers, and roared excitedly. Whoa. Keep going. Keep going, brat. Let me see where your limits are. Lin took a deep breath. He could clearly feel the raging power within him, like a prehistoric beast, surging and roaring, yearning for release. The 7th gate. The gate of shock. Open. Boom. The blue steam around him suddenly surged, almost turning into a tangible energy cloak, forming a visible blue whirlwind on his body. The terrifying aura caused the entire massive palace on Oni Island to tremble slightly, and the air seemed to freeze. Quinn and Jack, these 2 big guys, felt an immense pressure, as if a mountain were pressing down on them, their eyes filled with disbelief and shock. The flames behind Jin suddenly surged higher, and he stared intently at Lin, a strange light gleaming in his sharp, eagle eyes. Not enough. Kaido took a sudden step forward, his massive body exuding an unparalleled sense of oppression. He roared, that brat Sasaki told me you had something even stronger. Where's that blood-red steam that scared away the Marines? Where's the 8th gate? Open it for me. Lin's youthful face flushed slightly from the surging power within him, and the veins on his forehead stood out. He could clearly feel that the final threshold, the terrifying barrier that had once caused him to fail and lose consciousness, was right in front of him. This time, he's going to break through it. He wants to completely control this power. The 8th gate. Lin's voice became somewhat hoarse, each word seemingly squeezed out from between his teeth, yet it was exceptionally firm, filled with a do-or-die determination. The gate of death. Open. In an instant. A, a terrifying aura, far surpassing any previous one, filled with destructiveness and ominousness, erupted from Lin's small body like an ancient demon god awakening after sleeping for billions of years. Blood-red steam, like magma erupting from the deepest part of a volcano, mixed with the boiling blood in his body, soared into the sky. It was no longer just steam, but a pure torrent of energy condensed to the extreme, radiating a blood-red light that made one's soul tremble. The massive palace on the entire island of demons shook violently under this destructive aura. The sturdy animal bone structure creaked under the strain, as if it would collapse completely at any moment. The space around Lin emitted eerie, crackling sounds, and fine, jet-black cracks appeared and disappeared like a spider web. Woo! When Kaido saw the blood-red steam that resembled the burning flames of hell, and the terrifying power that seemed to tear space apart, he was thrown into a frenzied state of excitement. He suddenly stood up, his massive, mountain-like body trembling slightly from extreme excitement. This is the 8th gate. Good. Excellent. This is truly my son. Jin's pupils suddenly contracted to their maximum size. He felt that pure and violent power enough to destroy everything, and the name that only existed in legends flashed uncontrollably through his mind once again. His eyes became incredibly fervent and devout, as if he had seen the embodiment of some kind of faith. Quinn opened his fat mouth wide, oblivious to the cigar falling to the ground, his face jiggling like waves. My God, is this even human? Jack's pupils dilated, and he couldn't utter a word for a long time. The remaining flying six were almost suffocating under the pressure of this terrifying and despairing aura. Their faces were ashen, and their eyes were filled with extreme awe and deep-seated fear as they looked at Lin. This small figure was now exerting a sense of pressure on them that was second only to Governor Kaido. Crimson steam swirled around him, making him appear like a demon god descending to earth. Slowly, the crimson steam began to recede, returning wisps of it to Lin's body. Lin's face was pale, her forehead was covered with fine beads of sweat, and she was breathing heavily, her chest heaving violently. But his eyes were unusually bright, sparkling with the joy of success. It worked. He actually opened the 8th gate. And this time, he didn't faint like last time. Ding! Congratulations, host, on completing the mission. Limit breakthrough, development of the 8th gate. Mission evaluation, shocking. Mission reward, avatar, a power from all realms. Amaterasu, originating from the Naruto world. It's a Manjakaiwu sharing and technique used by Itachi Uchiha and Sasuke Uchiha. It releases an inextinguishable black flame from the point of focus, burning continuously until the target is completely reduced to ashes. This ability has been optimized for the host and can be activated without the Manjakaiwu sharing. Its continuous effect consumes Conqueror's Haki. Lin's eyes suddenly lit up, and an uncontrollable ecstasy appeared on his tired face. Amaterasu. It's an incredibly overpowered skill, practically a bug. This is truly an incredibly wonderful surprise. Chapter 15. The demon child kicks Kaido away. Not enough. Then let Amaterasu take care of it. My son. Kaido grinned, his massive dragon claw lunging at Lin with a brutal motion, but his eyes held a hint of caution that only he himself understood. Come on, kid. Open that death door for me again. Let me see just how badly you can hurt me. Wild laughter echoed through the palace. Jaehin, Quinn, Jack, and the others were sweating profusely. Was the governor going to fight a little kid? Lin's small body tensed up. He could feel that although the violent power brought by the 8 gates formation within him had subsided, it had not completely disappeared. Especially the lingering aura left by the brief opening of the 8th gate, like a lurking, ferocious beast. He looked at Kaido's huge face, which was contorted with excitement, and his small eyes darted around. Want to give it a try? Let's see how much power this body can unleash under extreme conditions. Yeah, come on. Lin responded in a childish voice, her little fists clenching tightly. He did not open the 8 gates again, because he knew very well that the brief state of the eighth gate had almost drained all his strength and spirit. All we can do now is concentrate the remaining terrifying power emanating from the eighth gate within our bodies into one point. It's like pouring all your strength into one kick. Just before Kaido's enormous hand approached, his small body suddenly sprang backward. In midair, his body, less than half a meter tall, shot towards Kaido's enormous dragon face like an arrow released from a bow. Extremely fast. It was so fast that even a top expert like Jin could only see a blurry afterimage. Ha! Kaido's enormous pupils suddenly contracted. That speed. That explosive power. Before he could even react, that small figure was already right in front of him. Then, Lin's small right leg, like a steel whip, slammed into Kaido's chin, which was covered with hard dragon scales, with an extremely terrifying and heart-palpitating sound. Bang! A deafening roar that shook the heavens and the earth. It was like a comet hitting the earth. That power was something a normal kick could never possess. That was a terrifying shock that transcended the limits of physics and common sense. Kaido's enormous dragon face suddenly jerked upwards. The hard dragon scales actually made a crackling sound under those tiny feet. Ugh! Kaido let out a muffled groan, and his massive body was sent flying backward. His massive body, as if bombarded by a giant cannon, crashed through the palace wall, carving out a huge gap. His body crashed down like a mountain collapsing, smashing through countless buildings along the way, and finally, with a loud boom, he slammed into the cliffs on the outskirts of Oni Island. Smoke and dust billowed up. Gravel flew everywhere. The entire Onigashima Island was once again violently shaken by Kaido's devastating blow. Inside the palace, dead silence. Absolute silence. All the Beast's pirates' executives, including King, Queen, and Jack, stood frozen in place as if struck by lightning. Their eyes were as big as saucers, and their mouths were wide open enough to fit a watermelon. My mind went completely blank. Governor Kaido. He was kicked away by young Master Lin. The flames behind Jin suddenly went out, and his eyes, which had been burning with flames, were now filled with boundless astonishment. He knew that young Master Lin was strong. I know he can open the 8 gates. I knew he could send a lieutenant general flying with a single punch. But he kicked Governor Kaido away. This is no longer a question of whether it's strong or not. This is a question of whether it makes sense. Midair. Lin's small body swayed slightly. He could feel that the remaining power within him, originating from the 8th gate, had been completely exhausted. I felt a strong sense of weakness and fatigue. But he did not fall into a coma. She was just panting heavily, her small face pale from exhaustion. He looked down at his little feet. Then he looked in the direction Kaido had been thrown. Its power is greater than I imagined. But he also knew. As the strongest creature, Kaido's kick was just like Luffy's gear 4th attack on Kaido back then. It produced smoke, but no real damage, and couldn't cause any substantial harm to Kaido at all. But aside from Kaido, who has incredibly high health and defense, others might not be able to withstand that kick. The key is, this was only a fleeting moment of the lingering echo of the 8th gate. This is not the full power of the Death Gate. If they were to unleash their full power, even Kaido would be at least spitting blood. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. In the distance, Kaido's rough and excited voice could be heard. Its massive body rose from the rubble of the cliff and shook its enormous head. On his chin, where the dragon's scales were covering, a clearly visible crack had appeared. Although it's shallow, it is indeed a crack. Great. That's fantastic. Kaido let out another deafening burst of maniacal laughter. His most prized asset, his tough physique, could actually be breached. This alone is enough to demonstrate Lin's astonishing potential for the future. His laughter contained no anger, no humiliation, only extreme excitement and fervor. That's more like it. That's more like it. Kid. Again. Give me another kick. Kaido's massive body slammed off the ground, propelling him towards the palace once more like a cannonball. His eyes burned with fierce fighting spirit, completely forgetting that the person in front of him was just a baby who was not even 2 years old. He just wanted to feel that impact that pushed him to his limits again. He just wanted to see how many surprises this son could bring him. Lin frowned slightly as he watched Kaido's massive figure charge forward again. He could feel that his body's energy was completely exhausted. Let alone another kick, it was even difficult to stay in midair. If they continue fighting, it will become pure hand-to-hand combat. With his current small frame, how could he possibly fight Kaido hand-to-hand? That's pure suicide. His small body slowly descended and landed on the ground. My legs felt a little weak. Kaido's massive body stopped in front of Lin, his copper bell-like eyes filled with anticipation. Why did you stop, kid? Keep going. Come on. Let's fight again. His enormous hand reached out again, carrying a powerful current of air. Lin took a step back, avoiding Kaido's hand. He looked up at Kaido's huge face, which was full of fighting spirit, and shook his head. Iya, I can't take it anymore. His voice was soft and clearly tired. Is it not working? Upon hearing this, Kaido's enormous dragon face collapsed. What? It's already failing. His enormous body looked somewhat dejected, like a big kid who hadn't had enough fun. Only then did the surrounding officials dare to breathe loudly. It's finally over. If the fighting continues, Onigashima will be destroyed by these two monsters. Kaido looked at Lin's pale face and sensed his weakness. Although disappointed, he knew he couldn't force the issue. What a spoilsport. His massive body sat down, and the ground thudded with a dull thud. That crimson steam, can it only last for a moment? Too short. Seeing Kaido's displeased expression, Lin had an idea. He remembered the